I'm Shelby, and today we have two awesome guests with us to talk about our subject. So we have Charlisa Belgary, who is the president of the 1867 Settlement African American Historic Preservation Committee, and then we also have April Smith, who is the co-chair of the Historic 1867 Settlement Preservation Committee. So Charlisa, we've worked together a little bit on some things. She's a fantastic wealth of knowledge. April, we've met a couple of times as well, and I can say the same about her. So today we're talking about the 1867 settlement, the district, the history of it, and the legacy of the family. And we're both descendants, right, from 1867. Can you tell us a little bit about y'all's connection to the settlement?
Yes, well, April and I are actually double kin. A lot of people find that pretty strange, but it is, and a lot of clarification needs to be done as well on the Bells. There's actually two prominent Bell families within the group. There's the Calvin Bell family and the Norval Bell family, which is our direct descendant. We are also, that would be our great-great-great-grandfather, Norval Bell was, but also Thomas Caldwell is our great-great-great-grandfather as well.
Okay, yeah, and these are really important names to the 1867 settlement. So the settlement is a historic district in West Texas City. It was started by formerly enslaved men who were enslaved on the George Butler Ranch, correct?
That's correct.
Prior to emancipation. Yes. So they worked as cowboys and ranchers. And then post-emancipation, right, they were very successful as continuing their career as cowboys, right?
That's correct.
And then they set up the 1867 settlement. So there was a lot of roadblocks, right, put into place for formerly enslaved men to purchase property.
Right.
In this area, the state Supreme Court Judge William Jefferson Jones of Virginia Point, he legally set aside this area, right, of West Texas City that formerly enslaved men could purchase property. But it came with that caveat, right, of needing basically letters of recommendation from white men, right? Stating of good morals and good work ethic, right? Yes. So a lot of formerly enslaved men faced that barrier and had to really fight against that, right?
Right.
So it really speaks that there were 5 families that were able to purchase land and get over that barrier and to set up such a thriving community, right? That still is thriving today.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about how the settlement came to be?
When Emancipation Proclamation happened at that time and they were freed, they stayed on to get a wage or to earn a wage at the Butler Ranch. And, of course, they continued on the Chisholm Trail. At that time, the first landowner and the largest landowner became Neelan Britton and his wife. They were the first to come to the settlement at that time. And then, of course, they were followed by Calvin Bell. Dave Hopgood actually was the other person who came into the settlement. He is the one, him and his wife are the ones that brought in Norval Bell. Norval Bell actually was never on the ranch. He came in by way of Alabama. So, but all of them, that is the way they came into the settlement. Thomas Caldwell never lived in the settlement. He lived in Hitchcock. He made his name in Hitchcock. Everything that he done in the community there in Hitchcock. But his 3 daughters married into the Bell family, 2 brothers and 1 cousin. So that is the way everybody came into becoming kin, being related.
Awesome. And just to clarify, so the Emancipation Proclamation that was read in 62, 63?
1865. It was 1865.
When it was read in Galveston.
Oh, yes. Okay. I wanted to make sure,
It was 1863 and when Lincoln first read it, but it took 2 years.
Right.
If anyone understands that. It took 2 years to get to Texas.
And part of that, just the Confederacy, they considered themselves to be a separate country entirely. So they they refused to acknowledge
Right.
any of Northern policies, right? Which really just continued the issues, the suffering that was happening, right?
Correct.
So it wasn't until Granger came down with General Orders Number 3 on June 19th.
That's correct.
1865, when they were forced to face that, like, hey,
We're free.
yeah. And then, so I just wanted to kind of clarify that a little bit. So you brought up Thomas Caldwell, right? Right now at the museum, we have his branding iron on display, and for a short time, we'll have his saddle on display as well. Can y'all talk a little bit about just the significance of him, really, and those items?
I mean, for me, it's a legacy. You know, we was walking through touring it today. I was like, this is legacy. They left us a legacy, and for us to continue it, you know, by doing what we're doing right now, informing people that didn't know the rich history that a small town has, just by 4 enslaved men that decided to buy property and to better their community as well as their families. You know what I'm saying? We own stores, lumber, we had our own schools, you know, that was us thriving in a community where we weren't supposed to. So to me, it's legacy.
Absolutely.
That's what it speaks. When I see that branding iron and soon that saddle, I mean, we even have one in the Smithsonian.
That's correct.
The biggest, you know, that's something to be proud of. You know what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? And it brings tears to me because I'm like, wow. Because we're not too far removed from.
No, not at all,
From slavery, from, you know, segregation. We're only like 2 generations away from that. And that speaks volumes too, you know. But as time goes, you it gets diluted in time, but you got to bring that back. Like, hey, these people set the foundation for why we can enjoy each other's company. We can sit side by side. We can be in the same arena. So to me, it's about legacy.
Yeah, awesome.
And I can talk a little bit more also on the history. I will definitely speak on our matriarch, one of our matriarchs anyway, who happens to be one of the centenarians in our family, Vera Bell Gary. And if everything works out, she will be 101 this year in December.
She's a feisty little lady.
Yes, she is.
I love her.
And I will tell you that is something that she had worked on for a couple of years. She kept on me to let's work on getting this branding iron and the saddle put somewhere. Before she left, she wanted to make sure that legacy was preserved because she had received it about 5 years ago. And it happened to be in one of the first cousins. Thomas Caldwell lived with one of his sons. And when he passed away, it was in the attic. So just imagine
An attic in Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Humidity, heat.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it didn't preserve the best. However, I think for the most part, it is still in really good shape. And so Vera wanted to make sure that was left, and that in the event that she had passed, that it wasn't just somewhere and one of the younger maybe family members didn't realize the worth of it or what it actually was and may have thrown it away. So when I see it in the case there, same as April, it brings tears to my eyes just to know that this is something that it needed to continue. The life, the legacy, the story, it continues with the branding iron, with the saddle. So every time I see it, I'm amazed, and I'm just very happy.
Yeah. And Vera Bell Gary is Thomas Caldwell's granddaughter.
That is correct.
Yeah. So, and just as you were saying, we're not that far removed from this history. His direct granddaughter is
Right.
still an
alive.
active member in our community.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that in itself is such a good example of the legacy, right?
You mentioned you have Miss Vera's over 100. Is there someone else in your family who is also over 100?
Yes, actually, our cousin Vander, who is also Thomas Caldwell's other living granddaughter. I believe Vera said they had like 30 or 40 first cousins.
Oh,
and they are the last two. And they are actually, what makes it so ironic is they are exactly 2 weeks apart.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Vander turns 101 on November 22nd, and Vera turns 101 on December 6th. So, and they are very close. Other than one sorority, one is a Delta and one is an AKA. But
So maybe a little bit of tension here and there.
but that never stopped
competition.
them.
Right.
Yeah, but it never stopped them.
Can you share a little bit about what is making up the settlement right now, currently?
Well, at this time, it would be the 1887 Bell House that is still there, the museum that we call the historical home that we frequent as often as we can. Also, across the street from the 1887 Bell House is the original home that our matriarch, Vera Bell Gary, was actually born and raised in. So that home is over 100 years old as well. If you go in, it's very nostalgic. Everything, it just kind of goes back to that particular time in life. Also beside it is the store, the old store that her parents ran. Of course, now it's been repurposed to a barber shop. So, and that is our cousins who are actually running that. So, we have continued, our legacy is still continuing in that area. And of course, we just look forward to just years of doing that. We have our family reunions. Let me say our many family reunions are done on the property as well. And, that has been up to about 350 people one year. So we still make use of that area. Yes.
So what makes up the 1867 settlement? Like, where are the boundaries for that location? People wanted to know.
Westward to Anderson to Highway 3 and around Highway FM 1765.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if our community wants to, come visit the Bell House, when can they go about doing that?
Yeah,
is there a certain time?
Yeah, we have select days a year, just a couple of times a year that we have it open to the public. The property itself is kind of like a park. You can go visit it anytime, so you may not be able to enter into the house.
Right.
Part of that is just for the preservation of the home because it was built in 1887, so but you can enter the property anytime. There's informational plaques out back that talk about the Chisholm Trail and Black Cowboys. There's a gorgeous, massive oak tree also on the property. So all that to say, anytime, really. We have it open in February and June, and then typically for October, right? And then, so we definitely encourage you. That area is full of history too, not just the not just the Bell House, but also Carver Park is a massive piece of that history as well.
Right.
Yeah, Carver Park allowed African Americans. It was for African Americans, right? Was it in Texas? Right, the first one in Texas.
As far as you're talking about in that area, the historical district, well, in our area, it is. So not in Texas, but in
Galveston County.
Right, that's correct, in our county.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Which is, that's crazy significant, too, because that just shows how that area was the first of many, right, to start this progress.
Right.
It's the only formerly enslaved settlement in Galveston County as well. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's too many in the state of Texas right now either.
Yeah.
So
I don't think many either. There's only certain designated freedmen's
right.
Freedmen lands.
Yeah.
Yes, freedmen towns.
What do you envision for the settlement going forward?
Well,
good question.
community. I want us to be more face forward with the community, with the youth. I would like for us to, like, during Black History Month, to go in to, like, the local Galveston County schools and give our history, so they know, hey, this small little town was part of history. So more community facing, I would like. I know we do the October thing is for the community to come out and view the both houses, because they normally open both houses for you to go in. And I would like to be more of a block party for the community, to where they can learn the history, the local history, and then, get to know each other. I think I know we were raised with community, everyone knew everybody. You couldn't walk down the street without, and now that's not happening. Right. And I think we need to go back to that community where you're looking out for the kids and they're being educated, not by our social media, but by actual people. And so they can learn to be more personable.
Yes.
We've gotten
Unless
away
you're
from
watching
that.
our podcast, and that doesn't count.
Right.
Well, true. But it's more educational versus the other stuff that is out there. So I think I would love to see us more in the community and doing more community-based things. That's part of my vision for our club thing.
Right. And I would agree with April on that as well. I think we both have pretty much, we are aligned on our visions. The only thing I would add to that, I know that Vera, I'm interested in making sure that her legacy and all the things that she's put in me and also in April, that she's provided us, that those things come to fruition. One of those things is that we would love to get into the Texas history books so we can make sure. So that is one of my goals for the future. We also, we've established scholarships in the past. We would love to do the same thing again, start scholarships every year to add a new one, to whereas we have maybe about 5 scholarships. That is some of the goals that Vera and I have talked about as well. But definitely to keep our place in the community, to keep everything alive and thriving within our family, and also within that community as well.
Well, those are wonderfully lofty goals. I'm very interested in your scholarships, and actually, you're interested in getting into the Texas history books. As a local history librarian, and I work, here in Galveston County. I'm kind of curious how we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Well,
I would agree. I think that's. I think that's the perfect goal to set.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you that we are visionaries as well as entrepreneurs as well. And I always say, if you can't see it, you can't have it. So we can definitely, we're definitely working towards that. And I see that happening within, the next few years, because it is a goal that we are actively working on.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all are great at this.
Yeah. I could just listen.
This was fun. This was my first time. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, you look like you knew exactly. A natural. Yeah.
But I just think it's all awesome that you guys are taking the time to get this information out about 1867 something, because before, I didn't even know, and I was in the family, but I learned through going through the family reunions, and just listening to the mature, the old heads, as we call them, and telling the stories. And then when I joined our family reunion committee, that's how I got into the 1867 on board with them, because I wanted to learn more about my family. Right. And that was through 1867. Because, family reunion, you're out there, you're playing, you're having fun and whatnot, but you're not getting the background. Right. And when I heard about 1867, I was like, well, I want to learn. I want to join. What do you do? What's the vision? And it's part of our family. I want to be a part of that. And then I learned a lot of information. And Vera, well, bless her, so she would be right here with us, what I'm saying? But she was always wanting me to get into it. Every time she would say, I need you to come here. I need, and she's been getting me, wanting me, and I finally said, okay, I relent. I'm coming to the family reunion. I'm going to join 1867. But I'll never regret that decision because I love it. I'm learning, and I'm passing it on to my kids. My kids was even amazed. They didn't even know half the people that they were kin to. I'm like, I didn't know I was kin to that person. I said, yeah, I didn't either until I joined. And I got to know the lineage and the down the line because, you just in your little bubble.
Right.
But it's just more than that,
Yeah.
The Bells branching out to the Hopgoods, to the Britons, It was like, wow, I'm kin. Then I didn't realize we were double kin until, and so it's just learning, you know what I'm saying? But learning that wealth of history and who you're kin to, it was eye-opening for me. And that's why I want this continuing to grow and so we can keep that passing it on. Like Vera, she is happy because now she knows that it's in good hands. You know what I'm saying? We're going to carry it on like she did for so long. She's passed the torch on to us, but then eventually, as we age, we want to continue that torch passing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I would say I agree with everything because a lot of us wouldn't even know one another. I've learned so many. Vera has definitely been a wealth of knowledge to us, a very good resource. When we have questions, we ask her. And it's great that she is still able to answer those questions. Yes, and so we do not take it for granted at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, but I did want to acknowledge the city of Texas City. We appreciate
The love
everything,
you guys have
yes,
shown for
that
this
you
family.
have, embracing the settlement as long as you have. You've given us a platform to actually help to keep our family name and the history alive and thriving. So we really do appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you all for coming on today and
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I learn something new every time we get a chance to get together.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah. Thank you all so much. And
I think this concludes our this portion of the Texas City Tales History Uncovered, and we'll see you on the flip side.